Hello BookTube, I'm Peg and welcome to my channel. I've been having so much fun this week watching BookTube from the booktubers that are in London at the Booker celebration of 50th year and the choosing of the Golden Booker, and it's really been great. It looks like they've had a good time there. Somebody asked me, I've been asked several times, why I changed my name and I'm not the, what was I before? The book prize addict. I'm still very interested in book prizes, but I just felt like I want to concentrate this next year on reading some older books that I've always wanted to read. And also, sometimes when you get the book prize list, it's not as exciting as you think it might, as you hoped it would be. And I don't really feel like reading them, all the ones on the list. So, but I'm still watching. You know, the Booker for the 2018 list is going to be announced, Longlist, 2 weeks from tomorrow on July 24th. And I'm having a lot of fun reading different people's blogs and forums on Goodreads about speculations on what's going to be on it. And I actually have included a link to the Goodreads list again. I did it before, but they've added more on books that are eligible for the Booker Prize. Nobody knows what's really sent to the judges because there's rules about certain companies can only send so many, but anyway. So, but I've been having a great time going through that list and just picking out books on it that I want to read. So, who knows, they might be on the prize or might not, but it's a lot more fun to just select them from there than to feel like I have to read a certain list. So anyway, I've been reading ones off the list, and I have several here today to show you that I think maybe you'll have a real good chance. Actually, anyway, they're books I really enjoyed and wanted to talk about. So anyway, the first book that I read this week is called Melody by Jim Crace. Can you see that very well? I don't know, the sun's kind of funny. Anyway, Jim Crace has written 11 novels, and he has 2 that have been on, were both shortlisted for the Booker before, and there were Harvest and Quarantine. Now, Quarantine was written not too long ago, and supposedly he had said that was the last novel he was going to write. I don't know if he was going to write other things or what, but I did read that somewhere. But then when he got on the short list for the Booker, he decided that since he got money from that, it would keep him going long enough to write another novel, and this is the result, and I'm glad he did. I want to talk about a little about the Jim Crace's writing in general and what I like about it. It's always very atmospheric. It has a lot of nature, and it's not fantasy, but has a touch of something or hint of something that's outside of realism. For instance, in this one, there's it takes place in a small town in England, I suppose, that an aging musician, the term Melody, is living in an old villa that's been in his family for many years, and some young real estate dealers are trying to get him to sell. It overlooks the sea, and they want the property to build new stuff. And it shows his life as he's aging and trying to fight off these people who want his land. Anyway, and he's has these attacks. He's attacked in his own kitchen by something. It's dark, he can't quite tell what it is, and he's attacked it once before, and he can't really tell if it's an animal or a person or what. And this goes on with my feeling of the atmosphere of Jim Crace's writing. It appears there's a rumor in this small town of an ancient race of people living out in the forest. There's a complete forest nearby, and so that kind of gives an atmospheric feel to it. We never get close to it. I mean, it's not part of the story, but the hints are there. And the other thing about his novels is you can't really, they're very atmospheric, but they don't really let you know exactly where the place is. Like like some novels do. You do feel this is a small town on a coast, but it has a feel it could even almost be a French coast or whatever. But I really do like his atmosphere, and I think this reminds me I might go back and read some of his others that I have missed. So especially since has been on the short list before, you can be pretty sure that this will be put in the mix, sent to the judges, because I think it doesn't count. If they've been on the list before, it doesn't count as one of their, each publication company, it doesn't count as one of theirs. So I'm sure this will be on the list that they look at. Whether they choose it on the long list or not, I don't know. Okay, the next one I have is by Donal Ryan, called From a Low and Quiet Sea. Donal Ryan is an Irishman, and this should be a good year for Irish writing, because I had mentioned before the rules have been changed. All the books that are up for the Booker can be from anywhere written in English, but they have to have been published or republished in England in the last year. It actually goes from September to October, but they changed the rules so that Irish writing does not have to be published in England. That just added another expensive step for them, and of course the books are already available in England anyway, so I expect to see Irish writing. This one I need to read it over, because it has a very unusual structure, and I didn't read even the book cover. If I had, I would have understood a lot better. This is is in 4 parts, and the first 3 parts are all different characters' stories, almost like it's a short stories or something. And I was like, I couldn't figure out what to hold on to. I mean, which story am I supposed to? Well, it was just a little bit confusing to me. Now, if I had read the foreword or the blurb on it, I would know that of the 3 characters, one in a different country, it all comes together at the end. And now that I've read it, I would like to go back and read it and read each character more carefully now that I know this is going to happen. But as I said, it just felt like a bunch of short stories when I was reading it, until I did get to the end and I realized. Donal Ryan has won a lot of accolades and prizes. His novel in 2014 was The Spinning Heart, was on the Booker short list. It was about the Irish recession, and I written from I think different characters' viewpoints, and it even won a title called Irish Book of the Decade, given by some. But it did win many actual lists, and as I said, it was on the Booker list before, so I'm sure he will be put forward for this book. Okay, next we have again another author that's been on the Booker list before, is Julian Barnes, and this one's called The Only Story. It's got a strange cover. Julian Barnes wrote, I don't know if his last book or what, but A Sense of an Ending, which has been much talked about here on BookTube, and this is going to be compared with it. I don't want to get into why it's going to be compared. That would be giving not something away about this, but giving something away about Sense of an Ending. And both of them have, I have to say, a dark flavor to them, very intense, emotional kind of flavor. Both are told from a young man's point of view. I will give you a little bit about this one because it's apparent right away. It deals with a young man named Paul who's 19 and falls in love with his tennis partner one summer, whose name is Susan, and she is 45. And it goes from there. This turns into a very serious relationship, lasts a long time, it's not without its problems, and it's not at all titillating, or it's not about sex really at all. It's about the relationship. And in some ways, as I said, it's told through Paul's point of view. In some ways, he's the most mature of the two, you'd almost think, as life goes on. And it shows his growth, you might say, and his thoughts about the relationship and love and life in general as you go along. I don't want to tell really anything about it, but they do have some pretty dark and wrenching problems later on. And there's this one just short couple sentences I wanted to read about his thinking about. He has so many things he thinks about relationships and emotions that ring so true, and I think we're well done anyway. This one, they're having some problems in the relationship, and he writes, "You realize how sympathy and antagonism can coexist. You're discovering how many seemingly incompatible emotions can thrive side by side in the same human heart." And I really can relate to that. You know, an intense relationship, you can love them one minute and hate them the next. So I think this might be a good contender on the list. I don't know. You know, it all depends on the judges. They're different every year. What they pick is different every year. I did see on one of the forums I read, the guys went and looked at the judges and their background and what they had liked or written in the past, and they did decide that it was probably going to be they think there's going to be surprises on this year's Booker Prize list. So I hope so. That was another reason I quit being the prize addict, because it seemed like the same books that I didn't like in the first place have been on every list for a while. Okay, so one more. I'm not going to say much about this. Country Dark by Chris Offut. This is an American writer, and I really think this is more, it is on the list that I've given you for eligible for the Booker, but I really think it belongs and much more likely to be on the National Book Award, which will be coming out in a month or so for American books. But it is really well done in what I would call Southern noir. I've heard that term lately. It takes place in the 50s. A young man from the hills comes home from the Korean War, and his life and life in the back country with the bootleggers, and it's really well done. And I'll be talking about this more, I'm sure, when the American Book Awards come out. Or who knows, it might make the Booker Award. Okay, lastly, I always save the needlework story till last because I know some people would rather just hear about books, but I wanted to talk about my crochet. I haven't talked too much about crochet before, but this overshirt is made out of crochet, which is always holier than knitting. I mean, has holes in it, and it's made with a hook rather than knitting needles, and you can always tell because it just doesn't look like knitting, though I've noticed a lot of authors, when they talk about it in books, get a little confused, and now that you know a difference. But I wanted to show you, you can't see too much of this one, but it does have a pattern at the bottom. It has scallops, and you can't tell, but it has like fan pattern in the crochet work, which I'm particularly fond of. So that's my needlework object for the day. Okay, I'm going to keep reading from this list I've given you. I've selected quite a few more to read this week, so I'll be back talking about what might be on the Booker long list. If you have any favorites, let me know.